Welcome back to the channel. This is the Late Show with your host, Young Brando, live from Los Angeles. I'm very excited about tomorrow, but we still have a lot of watches to talk about tonight. Tomorrow at 1 p.m. at Pacific Daylight Savings Time, I will be at Steel Buffalo Motors, which, in addition to being also, of course, a bike shop, is also kind of a modern day shrine to the King of Cool, to Steve McQueen. So we will be able to talk quite a bit about Steve McQueen, uh, certainly about his watches as well. We'll be smoking cigars and just overall, I think, talking about everything and nothing. So it will be a great episode. I got my microphones. I still need to test them out a little bit before we start the show, but it's going to be great. Um, all of that being said, tonight we are going to talk about that chronographs auction by In Eichen, based in Zurich. As you guys remember, I started talking about this particular auction yesterday. We were actually looking at some of the timed pieces that they have earlier. In Eichen comes with all the caveats that other auction houses come for me. I would always urge you to secure viewing if at all possible. Um, and as with other auction houses, of course, when they have a big curation, they always have some sort of opportunity to do so. If you can't do it yourself, if there's someone in the vicinity of the auction house whom you can trust, that's always the second best alternative. Um, and ultimately, I think you should always do your homework as rigorously as you can. And if you ever have any questions, of course, I'm always here to help. All right. I think the sound should be better now. I think the most interesting examples they had here in the timed auctions um, yesterday were this Lange one, white gold Lange one with a mother of pearl dial and an integrated bracelet. As you see, this is no regular Lange one. It actually is a perfectly round case without those characteristic Lange lugs with all their lovely angles. But this certainly is a very interesting watch in its own right, especially since it harkens back to that 70s, 80s style of integrated bracelet dress watches that were, which is a category very ably presented by brands like Patek Philippe, Audemars Piguet, and Vacheron Constantin, of course. And Lange finds itself in pretty good company when you think about it in that way, because of how unique this example is. Of course, it goes for now already for much higher than a good old Lange one, and the bidding already stands at 66,250 in US dollars, with a little more than 9 hours to go. This is, of course, from early 2000s, and as you can see from even this shot of the movements, it's the old school Lange 1 movement with that was based on the JLC gear train. Hey, Whiskey, how are you doing, man? Nice to see you. Yeah, it depends. It depends, Whiskey, or it depends, Reaper. I don't know how I should shorten your name, but I see you for sure. Um, sometimes things really slip through the cracks in auctions, and you can get some incredible deals. Sometimes they really offer unique pieces in enviable conditions, and they're priced accordingly. And sometimes, um, they are themselves tricked or are playing games with some kind of crook, and they're as shady as the worst of gray market dealers. You always have to know exactly what you're getting, having prepared yourself, having done your homework, and then you can go from there. It's a beautiful watch, for example, right? A nice two-tone Submariner with a Surtee dial, right? 11613, I believe, from what I can see here. Surtee, or Certi, of course, in French simply means jeweled or bejeweled. But in the Rolex terminology, it usually refers to champagne or silver sunburst dials that have sapphires at the quarters, triangular cut at 12 o'clock, and baguette cut at 6 and 9, and brilliant cut diamonds for the rest of the indices. Um, Sometimes when you see a similar dial on a full gold watch, on a full 18 karat gold watch, they are usually called a sultan. Again, these kind of nicknames sometimes are more or less common, more or less reliably used, so to speak. But Surtee is certainly one that stuck, and it is usually associated with the faces of these two-tone bluesies and two-tone root beers, right? The GMT with the burgundy yellow, or simply burgundy 24-hour bezel. This piece is in a decent condition, clearly has seen a polish, even though it has not necessarily been ground down. And the bezel itself has faded into a remarkably warm combination of navy and champagne, which complements the Surtee dial really nicely. This particular example is naked, so to speak, so it's just a watch. And with about a week to go, the bidding stands at 9,750. There is a buy it now option that is set at 17,150, which seems a little excessive. So I don't expect that to become active. And as always, which is one of the reasons I like in Eichen, there's no buyer's premium. So whatever price it hammers at is the price you'll get. Let me see. These are the watches that were added since yesterday. We talked a little bit about this A series Royal Oak, one of the first batch, so to speak, of the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak watches produced. The Janta design that was first released in 1972. We took a look at that integrated bracelet Lange, the couple of self-winding FP Journe pieces that were curated here. There's a very nice Venture Small Seconds by Ashmoser Company. This is a 40 millimeter polished white gold case with one of their famous Fumé dials that gradiates from the center from nice shade of blue all the way into navy and pitch black. Towards the end, a hand wound movement, which has, as you can see, a power reserve indicator on the back. Up to 5 days when it's fully wound by hand. I always have a soft spot for the mustachio-shaped balance bridge of the Moser movement and their particular double stripe decoration on the bridge plates as well. And this piece, as you can see, actually comes with its original set of papers, which includes, of course, the warranty papers, but also some product literature as well. From 2019, this piece is called the Venture Small Seconds Purity, and I think does really abide by that minimalist aesthetic that the name inspires. Currently, with about a week to go, the bidding stands at 14,300 in US dollars, with the fixed price set at 28,550 for the Ashmoser Company Venture Small Seconds Purity. I think there are a few more interesting pieces. I'm not going to go through everything, but this one is quite cool. This is a two-tone JLC Memovox World Timer. As you know, Memovox is Jaeger LeCoultre's version of an alarm wristwatch, which they made in so many different variations. Charlie Dunn of Vintage and I talked about some of those variations in an earlier conversation. So I want to send you a link in the chat to that conversation. Charlie, of course, works with Eric at Wind
vintage, and he is the director of research and content, and absolutely lives up to that title. This is one of those oddball configurations executed in two-tone with a fluted bezel. As you can see, the watch is slightly thick due to that mechanism. 37 millimeters in diameter, so a very nice size, and it currently stands at 4,800 in US dollars with about a week to go, and the buy it now option is set at 12,600 in US dollars. No buyer's premium, which is the case with practically every watch you see on in Eichen Zurich's website. There are some interesting pieces too. If you want me to look at anything that I skipped, please feel free to let me know. Please feel free to send in the lot number with a super chat, and I would be more than happy to take a look. The chronograph auction is what I wanted to mainly look at today. So that is the second link I'm sending in. And I look forward to hearing from you about the watches you would like me to discuss. I had started yesterday, but I will go right away to the piece that is on my thumbnail. This is the De Bethune DB8, a monopusher chronograph that has a very compelling piece of horological history behind it. This is a story that I like to tell on this channel. It's exactly the kind of story that I like to tell on this channel. Um, you might know that the years between the years 1998 and 2008, Cartier had a whole collection, the private collection, as they called it, of Cartier Paris, Collection Privée Cartier Paris, which was a very um, select editions of watches, always in limited numbers, that not only showcased some of the iconic designs from the Parisian Maisons catalog, but also some of their in-house as well as outsourced uh, high horology components. Some of the people with whom Cartier collaborated at the time, of course, became household names in their own rights, especially as independent watchmakers. And at the time, um, François Paul Jean, Denis Flageolet were collaborating uh, under the moniker of Technique Horlogère Appliquée. Um, making movements for Cartier Paris, among others. And as part of this collaboration, they offered to Cartier to resurrect their classic single button chronograph from the Roaring 20s. That became the famous Tortue monopoussoir that was published with CPCP, so Collection Privée Cartier Paris. And that single button chronograph movement, that monopusher chronograph movement, which was first resurrected for Cartier as part of the CPCP series and found its place in that iconic shape of a turtle on legs, was also used later by Denis Flageolet when he started working on his own brand as part of the independent brand De Bethune. It was in fact one of the first, it was in fact the beating heart of one of the first watches that De Bethune released, the monopusher chronograph DB1, an absolutely stunning watch that made much of that minimalist aesthetic. As you can see here on the wrist of yours truly, this is a DB1 with inset sapphires on the caseband and with encrusted diamonds on those bullet-shaped or ogival style lugs. Incredible watch, which is ostensibly more classical and in its own way more conservative than a lot of the pieces that De Bethune makes today. De Bethune is like Star Trek meets Breguet, or science fiction meets high horology, as you know, these days more than anything. But they have also in their past and still also produced a lot of pieces that take on very iconic and relatively simple concepts and execute them with a style that is very distinctively their own. And DB8 with the number 8 is specifically that kind of watch. It is also affectionately called the football timer, not particularly because of the way it looks at all, but because the single chronograph register that it has at 6 o'clock is actually calibrated for 45 minutes, which of course equals a half of that beautiful game. Otherwise, you have a beautifully scalloped hand guilloche center dial. And that classic De Bethune case in 42 millimeters with ogival lugs and in 18 karat yellow gold. A single button chronograph is actually a very simple concept to explain. You literally operate all the functions of the chronograph with that pusher that is integrated onto the crown. Start, stop, resets, all are literally engaged with that. This piece has a solid case back, bears number 8 for DB8, which is a nice coincidence. Very fine watch. And these pieces wear really nicely, even when they might be 42 millimeters, sometimes even larger by measurement. De Bethune has very nicely designed and contoured cases usually. Due to the design and shaping of the lugs mostly, and of course they take that to the next level with the whole concept of floating lugs, which are actually literally forming around your wrist thanks to the pivots they have at 3 and 9 o'clock. This beautiful piece is lot 30 at the Chronos 2023 auction. With about a day to go, the bidding currently stands at 63,950 in US dollars. The buy it now option is set at 97,100. You can see how the market is much more uncertain when you look at pieces like this, because something like this a year ago, I think would have already been sold at 97. Someone would have sniped it right away with their eyes closed. But obviously it is understandable, and that is a lot of money, even for an independent that has established itself quite strongly as one of the most respected names and one of the immediately recognizable styles in today's landscape of independent watchmaking. I want to actually continue right away with the Daniel Roth next to it. This is a self-winding chronograph with an open worked dial. A very interesting piece, not only because of that dial execution, but also because they are incredibly hard to find on the matching bracelet. And this is all the more impressive because you're looking at a white gold chronograph by Daniel Roth, which is on its matching white gold bracelet. A very unique design on the bracelet that you don't really see anywhere else. Perfectly balanced bicompax layout, 2-register layout for the chronograph with running seconds at 9 o'clock and a 30-minute totalizer at 3 o'clock, and with a porthole-like opening at 6 o'clock that is actually indicating the dates, and you can see right off center at around 12 o'clock column wheel for the chronograph, which of course makes this a very interesting piece to subject to that kind of open working. Um, the styling that Daniel Roth solidified in playing an important part in the revival of Breguet for our time, which has, of course, this element of heat-blued stainless steel hands, makes this piece also relatively legible for the kind of configuration. A remarkable piece, both due to its condition and the combination of the unique double ellipse or ellipsocurvix case and the matching bracelet in white gold makes this a very interesting proposition. People are clearly aware of that. With about a day to go, the bidding has already surpassed $20,000, stands exactly at 20,600 in US dollars, with the buy it now option set at 26,300. Big Butcher, how are you doing?
Doing well, doing well.
Nice to see you, man.
Yeah, I've been busy the last few days finishing up finals week, and so I haven't streamed. And I'm like, I need to catch young Brando and see what's happening.
How you are going through a big life transition, it seems, right? You know, you are going back to school. You have a new enterprise, I think, right? People were talking about that.
Well, I sold my business back in 2018, and I was getting ready to buy another business right when the pandemic hit, and then of course,
Mhm.
the whole world caught fire, and 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 so I ended up working. I'm working for a large corporation, which I've never done in my life. So,
Okay.
kind of trying to, I don't want to say reinventing myself, but just a whole, my life has changed so much in the last few years, and I'm going for that last piece of knowledge I think I'm missing to be competitive in that corporate environment. So
Yeah, so you have gone back to school for that specifically.
yeah, so
Nice.
yeah, analytics. Let me tell you how fun.
So I was looking at some chronographs,
I love
Jeremy. I hope you would be interested as well. And Jake Brooks, 999. Thank you so much. Was asking us about the number 22, which is a Breitling Transocean. A friend of mine has a Breitling Transocean chronograph, very similar to this with the mesh bracelet. I think it looks beautiful, but his is quite simple, all black, and certainly doesn't have the world cities rings. I don't know if there is, I don't know how you manipulate that, honestly, so I can't really speak to it. Not really familiar with the world time version of this particular watch, but I think the 24-hour ring rotates.
It looks like it would rotate like a date wheel.
Yeah, probably. You uh, you have to pull the crown, since I don't see any extra pushers beyond the
Yeah,
chronograph.
yeah. I mean, that would make sense.
I mean, I like Breitling chronographs, but not necessarily the Transocean. I
How
don't know.
big is this case?
I think it's 42. No,
Uh,
this is 46.
Oh,
Wowzers.
So kind of like
Yeah.
the large Navitimer then, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think 46, for me it would be too big. I don't know. Maybe JB, you might give it a shot, but it's not really my jam, as you know.
Right. Yeah. I mean, my gut shot on it. I I don't have a ton of experience with Breitling. It seems like every time I look at a Breitling, I choose something else. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, it's not that they're bad or whatever. They're just something I like a little bit better in that price range.
I
But
mean, I like the design, but the size reminds me of everything that I genuinely hated, in early 2000s about Breitling watches. Just too big, um, too polished, too loud for my taste.
it is pretty blingy.
Um, so I don't know. Otherwise, I do like the Transocean. I think they do have smaller sizes. I think it's cool with the mesh bracelets.
Is this
Um,
what auction is this we're looking at here?
this is in Aachen. It's a Zurich-based company,
Okay.
and they do. The great thing they have is there's no buyer's premium. They do
Oh,
a lot of online exclusive auctions, sometimes just a random assortment of watches, but often they also have these curated auctions where, let's say they would focus on perpetual calendars, tourbillon, calendar watches, chronographs. One time they even had something like German speaking watches. So they had
oh yeah, nice.
Lange, Glashütte Original, all the usual suspects, but also, some pieces from IWC, Moser, from the German-speaking region, German-speaking part of Switzerland. So they do
Right.
interesting things. But yeah, it is a GMT type world timer. Because it doesn't have the pusher for you to navigate that complication. You basically set it once as a reference time, uh, as far as I can understand it. 46 millimeters for me is prohibitive. JB has bigger wrists than I do, but not by much, I have to say.
Yeah.
So I think that's a little large for me. I do like the dial design a little bit. I like a little bit
I
of
wish there was
color.
a little more contrast in the world versus those white dials. Because if you look at it kind of at a distance, it kind of looks like a
Yeah.
funky blob. I mean, like I like the aesthetic of it, but if it was maybe just, I don't know, if it had like an outline or something. Oh, there's just something. But in this price range, I think I mean, it's a cool watch.
Yeah, I mean it does go a little bit up there, right? The fixed price, which is the buy it now option, is 6,900. And even though there's no buyer's premium, of course, there will be some sort of import fee or something else due getting
Yeah.
it from Switzerland. But the current bid stands at 3,450. If it ended under 4,000, and if you do want to take that kind of gamble to see if you like it or not, that's one thing. But I'm not too huge on this particular
Yeah.
piece. I would much rather go to a classic 60s Breitling, rather than something this new. But that's just me.
What vintage is this?
This should be early 2000s. Let me see, what does it say? It doesn't actually specify. It doesn't even specify. No, it does say the reference number. Um, Not even sure how to decipher that, but let's see.
Yeah.
Let me see. Hmm.
Chronographs to me are always one of those like fascinating timepieces. You know, in the modern era, they're not really a necessity, but they harken back to a lot of my favorite sports and things, and so I'm a sucker for a good chronograph. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think it's one of those iconic sports watch looks. Even people who never engaged or who never cared for the actual function of the chronograph just embrace that look because it looks like a true sports watch, because of our imaginary connections to motorsports and
Yeah,
everything. In my case, at least, right? You are someone who actually races cars, so
yeah.
there's that
I
distinction.
still, I mean, one of the first luxury watches I ever bought was a Speedmaster racing version, the 2 dial with the date function at 6 o'clock, and I liked it because it had the orange accents.
Right. Yeah, and that's a big watch as well, right? The
Yeah,
44.
it's 44 and a half or something like that, but it wears a little bit smaller. To be honest, it doesn't seem like a great big watch. This Breguet is nice.
This is cool. This is the date version of what I have. The 3820 used to be the reference number. Um,
Is that rose
Transatlantique.
gold?
Say it again.
Is that rose gold?
This one is yellow gold, but
Oh,
there
yellow.
are rose gold examples. There are pink gold examples floating around as well. Um, Beautiful blue dials sometimes on those. Once every so often, a brown dial, black dial as well. I think this yellow gold looks pretty handsome too. I think a little bit of the patina perhaps gives it that slightly pinkish hue as well.
Yeah.
But
Okay. There,
you
there.
know,
It looks more yellow gold in that picture.
yeah, and there's
I
of
like the
course
subtlety of those dials. Like it doesn't, it doesn't, it doesn't take anything away from that Breguet look.
yes, I think one of the beautiful things about this earlier um, revival of the Type 20 was that they took a lot of the original utilitarian aesthetic, the mil spec elements and everything, but they slotted everything into Breguet styled case, namely, with the fluted case band, those teardrop shaped uh, drooping lugs. At 39 millimeters, it's much more akin to its origins, which was around 38, than the more recent 42 millimeter look, which admittedly has a very beautiful case in terms of the design. Um, but I really, really like these. 3800 is what I have. That's also called Aeronaval. It doesn't have the date here, and slightly different visually. The 3820, I think, is a beautiful watch. And here it comes also with the matching Breguet branded déployant clasp, which would otherwise set you, I'm sure, more than $1,000. So
Right.
good to have that. This is the one minor thing that a lot of people used to complain about is, of course, the movement, which is identified here actually mistakenly as a column wheel chronograph. It is not. It's a cam switching type chronograph that Breguet calls caliber 582, based on the Lemania 1350, which has the additional flyback function. So it is actually a movement that is much more akin to the older Omega Speedmaster movements, like the 1861, I believe, is based on a similar Lemania Eboche.
Yeah. I think this watch is going to bring all the money, to be honest. What do you think?
I like it. I like it. It's I mean, again, I'm a little biased because I have the stainless steel version, which I genuinely adore, but
Yeah.
I think these are also good value for money in precious metal. There are some quite rare platinum versions even that look amazing to me, but there's also a lot in yellow gold and pink gold that is quite attractive. There was a Japanese limited edition of the 3800 style of the Aeronaval without the dates, with a blue dial in stainless steel that was extremely popular,
Yeah.
and now sells for a premium. But I think it might be worth it if you like the Type 20 style to get one of these. I'm sure you can find one in better condition elsewhere. And for the yellow gold one, I think a little less than 12K might actually be a good price for one in a good condition.
Yeah.
Here we have a little more than a day to go, and the bidding stands at 9,750, with the buy it now set at 13,750.
I like it, but there's something about that strap that just looks boring with that watch.
It's a little too plain, you find?
It just I don't know. It doesn't help the watch pop any, I don't think. Maybe I'm just fussy.
Yeah. No, I mean, I completely agree. Let me see if I can find a picture of mine when I had it on the Breguet crocodile strap with contrast stitching. That was a beautiful look for the steel, and I can certainly see it being an appropriate look for the precious metal,
Yeah.
as well.
I just think a precious metal piece needs that it's like a good pair of shoes, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Can be really put together, and if you got a crappy pair of shoes on, all people notice is the crappy pair of shoes. Not that I'm a
Yeah.
fashionista in my gray t-shirt and you know what I'm saying? But
No, I get exactly what you mean. I mean, you can certainly ruin a good outfit by not wearing nice shoes. I agree with that. Can't argue with that. Let me see. Where do I have a good picture of that? Nice. Copyright strike incoming, but I love that song.
I tried to hit the mute there. It was my ringtone. I'm a slacker. I'm a slacker.
Right here. Not on my wrist, but probably that's even better because it lays it out nicely. Oops. What the hell did I do? Man, I'm really not in good form these days. That's it. Can you see? In the middle? Oh, you muted yourself, I think, Jimmy.
I know I tried to mute myself when my phone started ringing, and now yes, that's beautiful. Like I see that stitching. It draws your eye right to the dial. Yeah, that's I
You
like
can
it.
have something similar with the yellow gold. I think a dark brown would fit it, but black crocodile with contrast stitching could be just as good. And
Yeah,
thank you, Butcher Senior. Hi, Robert Woods and JB Austin friends in the house.
yeah.
Nice
Say hi
to
to
see
all
you.
our Austin peeps. They're hanging out with us tonight. You got a good collection of goodies there. What are those? What glasses are those?
So that is Oliver Peoples, Cary Grant
Okay.
model. I really like them. I yeah, admittedly, I use them more than my Steve McQueen's, which are right next to it, the folding version,
Oh yeah.
the original. That was, by the way, that is the integral piece of my American dream, if I may tell you, Jeremy. When I first watched the original Thomas Crown Affair with Steve McQueen,
Mm-hmm.
I remember. Do you know the movie?
Uh-uh.
Oh, okay. So, um, Steve McQueen plays this millionaire character at the time. I guess would translate as a billionaire in our time, who stages a bank heist just for the fun of it. Not because he needs the money, but after he completes his mission, he walks into his house in this beautiful three-piece suit, takes off his glasses, folds them, puts it in his pocket, and then unleashes this maniacal laugh. And I was like, I gotta get a pair of those glasses. I must have been like 13, 14 years old,
Right.
and it was one of the first things that I bought for myself. When I got my first job ever in the U.S. and I had a little bit of money. I had to go get me some Persols. So that's
Yeah.
the story of those Persol Steve McQueen's. I broke a couple of pairs already.
Yeah.
Um, Sat on one of them,
Oof.
um, but those are still with me. I love the Oliver Peoples Cary Grant. This is a lighter that I still want to get fixed. It's my father's Dunhill. Next
Oh.
to it is an ST Dupont, again my father's, that I have it in working condition and with me on a daily basis, sustaining my bad habit. That is that. I have that is the valet tray that I used from Goya that I like. It's like I think it's suede inside. It's certainly soft, so you can put your watches with relative abandon.
Yeah.
Nice two-finger cigar case by them as well.
I like the red and yellow.
Yeah, I that was I said, okay, how long will I have to wait for this? And I surrendered it back to them immediately because I think there's like a 30-day window, or maybe 3-month window after you make the purchase from them,
Uh huh.
so people don't end up bringing things that they bought on the secondary market. So I almost immediately surrendered it back to them and got those stripes and put my initials on them as well.
Oh, okay, nice.
And that is my um, actually, the flask is also my dad's. It was actually filled with aftershave balm, which my mom kept with that balm after he passed away for some years. I got it nice and clean, and I sometimes put some On my bluer days, I put some scotch in there and
Yeah.
carry it along to drown the sorrows. So that's part of the kit for that reason. There's
Yeah.
the other one. This is a French brand of handkerchiefs that I really like. I'm trying to see Simoneau Godard. That's the brand. They make some of the most beautiful, cotton linen mix stuff that sits nicely in the pocket too. I mean, I'm kind of a dandy. I love the pocket silks and everything, but
Mhm.
it's hard to have them stay in your pocket in a proper way. It's a little too fussy even for me. But a
Right.
nice cotton handkerchief, you put it in there and it sits the whole day. And it's a nice color. And, if you make someone cry, you can always offer them, in a gentlemanly fashion, a handkerchief to wipe their tears. So that's always some great.
You know me well.
Yeah, and that's my date just, by the way, which unfortunately I feel like I don't wear often, only like once a month.
Is that a 36?
Yes, that is a 16014, so like a late 70s piece, all stainless steel with the white gold fluted bezel. I do have the Jubilee, but I usually put it on a leather strap like that.
Is that like a olive color?
It's like a gray, but I guess the filter that I used in this pic made it look like olive,
Well,
which
it's sitting on that green tray too. So
yeah, that could be an interesting idea though. Like a dark olive could be a nice strap for that kind of watch as well.
yeah, I like it. I think straps are an interesting way to take an everyday piece and do something different with it.
JB says, I love the Goyard pattern. Like John Deere, you pay a lot for the green paint. Yeah, look, I mean, I have the wallet too, and I thought a lot about it. I said, okay, which color I should get. I ended up getting the green, which is a little too on the nose for a wallet, but we don't even use cash money anymore, apparently. So it's not, I guess it's less gauche now. But anyway, I like their patterns, and some of the colors are apparently a little more rare than others. I'm not sure if green is necessarily one of those colors, but anyway, I do like the green the best, I think, except for their traditional, which is what the cigar case comes in there. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm a big fan of the 3800s or 3820 when it comes to the Type 20. Some people mistakenly assume that it was a Swatch Group thing when they first revived it. Actually, the investment firm that first rescued Breguet when they were almost going down after the Chomet brothers got it mixed up in that diamonds scandal, had the great idea in 1994, 1995 to release a watch that would appeal to a different kind of collector than their classic dressier pieces. So they kind of delved back into their archive and brought back the pilot's chronograph that they had made for the air forces of the French Navy in mid-century. So
yeah, I love these. And like you see like car companies like Porsche and things have started doing that in the last 20 years too. They're like, we have people that love our sports cars that are big enough fans that they would drive something else if we made it, and they make SUVs and they sell a crap ton of them, and so it's like I love this kind of crossover going back to the military history.
Yeah.
If you were a huge Breguet fan, their dress washes are fantastic. They're beautiful, but you wouldn't necessarily wear it every day. This would be a great everyday wear right here.
Hmm. Even in precious metal, I think
Right.
it's a
Yeah.
very nice style. And I like thinking of the integrated bracelet watches, kind of like uh, in analogy to that SUV craze. When it comes to, not perhaps necessarily from the perspective of utility that you just broached, Jeremy, but more in the sense that, hey, at some point, a lot of these brands realized if we have our own integrated bracelet sports watch, we might be able to sell a crap load of them, as you put it. And it was just leaving too much money on the table for a lot of these brands. So everyone had to come up with their own versions.
I mean, it's bad when you can go buy a Lamborghini and Ferrari SUV. Tell me there's not money in that. you know.
JB says, which colors of Goyard are the most rare? Are they playing Panda games? Not exactly. Let me put it this way, JB. We talked about Goyard quite a bit, that you have to go to the boutique for your first purchase. You have to basically open your account, and after that it becomes a little easier. And thank you, by the way, for 4.99. And of course, all three super chats today were contributed by members as well, Jeremy being another one. So I really appreciate you guys. um but some of the colors, I think they don't even keep stock. So they basically only order them when you put down, and I believe that, like, really the full amount, not even a deposit. So I think you have to pay in full for a lot of that stuff. Let's see. I'm gonna just choose the wallet as an example rather than.
I'm glad you're going down this hole because I'm not really familiar with Goyard and any of their
Yeah,
products.
so they're actually a very kind of a legacy trunk company, much in the vein of um, Louis Vuitton. As you can see, this is the Duke of Windsor and the Duchess. They, as you know, were major bon vivant. Even I think it's mostly the euphemistic part of the story, but of course, Edward VIII gave up on the throne for his love to Wallis Simpson, at least so the story goes. And they basically lived a life of luxury for the rest of their time on this earth. And, of course, they would travel by train, by steamboats, and they could actually have a whole, as you can see, these are their actual trunks, or at least, visual remake of them.
Right.
So since mid 19th century, they have that tradition, they have that reputation, and much in the same way as Louis Vuitton, they are familiar for their distinctive canvas pattern with which they used to cover those luggages and trunks and other accessories. Nowadays, in places like uh, Beverly Hills, for example, you hardly see a woman who doesn't have one of these tote bags. Um, in different colors. There are different lining options as well. But this is the most common one.
Yeah. I
And
see that, and I think my wife's. I'm like, we better not show her that.
yes, the gray, I think the gray, the white, even the burgundy and sky blue, I believe you have to order them. I hardly see them. I go into the boutique sometimes and clearly they don't show me everything. I mean, I've gotten a few things from them, but I guess what I buy from them is like trinkets for them. It doesn't mean much. So I'm sure they don't show me everything, but I'm given to understand some of the colors are more rare than others. The gray, the whites, the burgundy, the sky blue, maybe some others that I'm forgetting. And a lot of times you actually have to basically put down the money and wait a little for them
Here's the
to
money. Send it to me when you get it.
basically.
Yeah.
The ladies actually, I mean, we're learning it from them. It's in a way, I think for most other animal species, it's the male that has to fight so viciously for female attention. That's why you have, the male peacock is so much more beautiful than the female part of that species, or even the lions, right? I think a male lion is much more of a majestic creature than a lioness. No offense to the lionesses who are listening, and other big cats. As you guys know, I am an aficionado. If you're at least 40 years old, please feel free to slide into my DMs. I appreciate an older woman. Uh, it's better if you come with your own handbag because I'm broke, but something can be arranged.
You can make an introduction to someone at the boutique, though.
Yeah, I can do that. But yeah, I also, another thing that people like about Goyard is a lot of the pieces can be personalized in that artistic way. Again, it's in some of the boutiques, much like Louis Vuitton, sometimes they have the person coming in and applying that kind of thing in front of your eyes, which is quite cool. But a lot of times you just have to surrender it to them for at least about 6 weeks, and it gets back in a pretty cool customized way, like you kind of see here. And yes, the customization is pretty resistant to the ravages of time as well. I have seen some very well patinated pieces. The wallets themselves stood the test of time, but they were already showing the signs of age, whereas the customization was beautiful still. So I like that. I like that they have all those options, as they have some visual examples here, and they also have an online customization kind of simulator where you can see some of the results. Usually just stripes and initials, I think, are a great touch, but you can, as you see, get certain more detailed artistic interventions as well. Yeah, cool stuff. And thank you, JB, for asking. I think really the rarest of rare is the gray and white, if I believe, and then there are some other stuff. coming back to chronographs and in Eichen's auction. Maybe you tell me as I scroll down, Jeremy, what you want to look at.
All right, scroll back up. Is that a Longa to the left?
Yes, that's an 1815.
The blued hands just popped out off the screen. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking on my
Yeah.
laptop and those blue hands just. I love it when Brigade does it too. You know what I'm saying? Those fire blued hands against the white.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's a flyback chrono. That's got to be big money right there. I bet.
Yeah, and of course, the Datograph has been a modern classic since it came out in 1999. In the most recent iteration, it has both the big date indicator at 12 o'clock and the up and down power reserve at 6 o'clock. It's bigger and badder in that way compared to the 1815, which, after all, belongs to the family of watches for Lange that kind of try to reimagine the Saxonian aesthetic of a pocket watch as a wristwatch.
I got
So
you.
this is a much more simplified design for that reason, even though the base of the flyback chronograph movement remains the same. You only have the two chronograph registers with the 30-minute totalizer between 3 and 4 and the continuous running seconds between 8 and 9. And I agree. I think, Breguet has their own stylized hands with the apple-shaped tips, so to speak, and Lange has their alpha hands. They are kind of shaped like lancets, I guess. Heat blued again for all the hands you have, including the centrally deployed chronograph seconds hand as well.
Yeah, yeah. This speaks to me, but I almost think I like the Breguet style a little better. Seeing this close up, it seems like it has an awful lot of scratches on it too.
Yeah.
But that strap looks really good on there.
Yeah, I think Lange has actually very underrated style of straps. I like that rounded edge, to be honest. Gives kind of a slightly sporty feel to what is otherwise a very classically inclined watch.
Yeah, there's the Rockstar right there. That movement, gosh.
It's a fantastic piece. Yellow gold here, built on the base of that caliber L95. The 39.5 millimeter of diameter for the 1815, which is a little more classical in its proportions, a little dressier, perhaps, a little
for
thinner.
the average person. That's a fantastic size watch.
Yeah, and a little slimmer as well, especially from the most recent generation of the Datograph, which again makes it a little less bulky, like you said, Jeremy, a little perhaps amenable to the average collector. Well, in terms of wrist size, I should say, because 1815 is certainly a very high level watch.
Yeah. What is that? Oh yeah. 45 grand.
It's currently, with a day to go, 45,700 in US dollars, with the buy it now option at 74,250. The thing that I do not like about in Eichen sometimes is they have mixed messages. It is pink gold now that I think about it, but it's listed pink gold at the title, and then
Right. It says
in the
yellow
specs,
below.
it says yellow gold. So sorry for the confusion. I do apologize, but sometimes they are not as specific as they should be with their listings, which is something they should amend. That was lot 1 for the Lange 1815 flyback chronograph in pink gold. I wonder if they have. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say that is that an open work? Not the one. Yes, that.
Yeah, that's we were just talking about these people, Artisan de Genève, when they did that custom Daytona for Adam Levine that they were showing off in Talking Watches. Did you come across that, or were you doing the grad school?
Yeah,
stuff?
I haven't seen that one.
Good. So let's leave it at that. But this is this is a company, Swiss company, obviously, that takes, I think, a large part of their business when they were really starting up was taking contemporary Rolex watches and customizing them in a way that would be reminiscent of some iconic collectible vintage Rolex pieces. More recently, though, they have started doing things that are a little bit off the wall, like open worked / skeletonized dials, different design elements that were previously not necessarily seen in Rolex. They do
Those,
similar.
those
They
green
do.
hands with the green
Right.
on top of the gray. I mean, it kind of reminds me of the Wimbledon dial colors. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the tachymeter is also inscribed with the same shade of green. Like there's even some red running through the crown, which is certainly not something you would see in a standard production Rolex watch. Apparently all white gold. So this is a white gold piece.
Oh, that's why it's got that nice grayish kind of color to it.
Yeah, there's like a distinctive warmth to it, I think, compared to stainless steel, even in pictures.
Yeah.
And this is the case back, which is a display one. Although nowadays Rolex started doing that too, so they're gonna rival Artisan de Genève soon.
They finally caught up to Omega. I mean, I'm sure it's crazy expensive, but it's certainly interesting, and what's arguably one of the most popular watches in the world.
Yeah, look, I don't really have a hardline stance on these. I know a lot of the projects are, one of one, so to speak, commissioned by people executing their ideas more than anything. And I'm not necessarily going to hate on that. The Adam Levine thing, I did hate on it a little bit because, they made the whole Talking Watches basically around that, and it turned into a commercial, kind of an advertorial to them. So that rubbed me off the wrong way. But yeah, I think this new line they are going into, actually, that I appreciate that a little more than making modern versions of say a Bond Submariner, or
Right.
like
Yeah.
a single Red Sea Dweller or whatever else. That to me is much less appealing. Try something different if you're really going to butcher a contemporary piece and use it as your canvas. Do something new, and here at least they're trying that.
Yeah. And I mean, I like, well, I'm a sucker for the open works or the skeleton stuff, just because I enjoy the movement and appreciate the mechanical side of all of it. I could definitely, if I had a giant bankroll, I could be like, oh yeah, I could own this.
Robert Wood says, "Why be the cougar hunter?" I have an entire playlist, which is part of my member exclusive content. Wink, wink. That's called Wilf Hunter. Watches I like to find, but clearly, if you know, you know. If you know, you know. I was a huge fan of the original MILF Hunter online. Some of my favorite online content ever made. And I like big cats, and I cannot lie. So bring it on. JB says, and I think I agree with him on this particular account. Um, I respect the work for Artisan de Genève, but icons don't need customization. Very
Yeah, I
well
could,
and succinctly put, I think.
yeah. I wonder if you could pop all this stuff out and make it back to original pretty easily or not.
Robert, Robert says, at my age, I could be the GILF hunter.
Is
Wow.
that guitars you like to find, Robert?
Yes, that's exactly what it means.
Wondering about this vintage right here. With the
Ooh, wait, don't hide it right away. I was just taking a look. That's a
I've-
Paul Reed Smith, right?
Paul Reed Smith. This is the original custom 22. It's a 10 top with birds. And this one is old enough that Paul Reed Smith was still signing the headstocks for real. So this is a 1993. It's the first
that's
year
his
he came out with
that's
this
his
model.
hand that's his hand signature.
That's his hand signature.
Wow.
So yeah, this was.
Amazing.
I mean, he got his start in about 85, 86, somewhere in there,
Mhm.
and, with his 24 fret version. And then they did this. They did the Dragon. Like if we're going down the rabbit hole of crazy.
I remember they even had a single cut at some point, which they had to modify or discontinue because of some copyright infringement or cease and desist from Gibson.
Gibson,
I'm
yeah,
not sure though.
it was the McCarty model, the McCarty single, and it was well, actually, McCarty actually worked for Gibson for many, many years, and then came over.
Ah,
So.
nice.
But
That was a gray color for the maple
they
top.
call it gray black. So it's
Very
a,
cool.
a translucent stain over flamed maple.
Very
So.
cool. Beautiful guitar, man.
I sold everything I owned, including a car, to buy that when I graduated high school. So
Amazing. Love that kind of commitment. That's fantastic.
I've kept it for, well, I bought it in 1993, so it's been 30 years I've owned that guitar.
Well, I hope you will get to keep it and play it for many, many decades to come in great health. That's a beautiful, beautiful piece. Robert agrees, but he also raises the stakes by saying, "I'll put up my '67 Fender Precision against your PRS." We should
Value,
have a. Can we
value
have a live stream,
on
perhaps, where you guys like solo off or at least riff
a
off
jam.
against each other? Robert would play his Fender Precision. You would play your '93 PRS. That would be amazing.
That's right.
Um,
Are you going to sing for us too?
I can try.
Okay.
I don't think I'm really a singer, but I can, like, if you let me know of the set before, I'll give it my best shot.
All right. There we go.
Maybe all these cigars I've been smoking may have helped my singing voice a little
Right.
more.
Yeah.
But
Whiskey
yeah,
helps too. Whiskey helps too.
oh yeah, you know that old blues tune, I'm sure, right?
Yes.
Ain't nothing better than whiskey.
Yes.
Ain't nothing like whiskey. Yeah, that's just it. Yeah, that's a beautiful one.
Yeah.
Lighton Hopkins.
Man. Yes. Yes. I knew we had lots in common here. So
Yeah, that's great.
Lightning Hopkins would not wear this watch.
No, I wonder what watch he wore. I can certainly see him with a Hamilton or like a tiny, gold dress watch of some sort.
Yeah.
I can imagine. Again, I will leave the choice to you. Oh, by the way, yes, the bid was standing at 107,350 in US dollars, with the fixed price set at 154,150 in US dollars. Less than 13 hours to go.
Yeah.
You tell me when to stop.
All right. So stop, because I have this new obsession. And well, it's not a new obsession, but
Hmm.
I'm thinking about consolidating a lot of pieces of my collection, and I'm thinking about a Royal Oak offshore.
Okay.
But almost everyone I find is a chronograph of some sort. Is that, like, I see the chrono and I see the diver, but did they not make a 3-hand, like just standard offshore?
So the original Beast, when Emmanuel Goetz designed it in the late 80s, and eventually it was released in 1993, he wanted to, not only reimagine the watch, but also kind of give it a complication that was up to that date not used in the Royal Oak. So the
Okay.
original Beast was a chronograph, and that tradition remains rather strong. So here is, for example, something that is close to its original configuration.
I like that blue.
Yeah, and it's also the finer, what they call petite tapisserie, the finer waffle or square-like design, pantograph drawn or cut. So that tradition remains pretty strong. I think when you think of time only offshore, you are probably looking at a diver.
Yeah.
I think that would be your best bet. And honestly, Jeremy, I used to be much more of a purist, but over the years, I like the offshore more and more. Not necessarily in the chronograph version, although I'm not really averse to it either. But if I had bigger wrists, I can certainly imagine myself rocking an offshore diver. I
Right.
just can't pull it off. That it's just too big for me.
Right. I just don't see them in the bracelet that often either. They're almost always on a rubber strap. And to me, the whole point of the Royal Oak line is that fantastic bracelet.
Yeah, these are, let me see. I mean, they don't have one here, but they must. Let me see if I can find an example of a nice, offshore chrono, not necessarily the diver.
There's a store here locally that has the Havana version, which is that kind of brown with the dark blue. It's really
Ooh.
nice. I'm just like, but man, it would look so much better. I'm assuming to get a bracelet, it would be at least a few $1,000s on top.
Yeah, so the bracelet is a little different as well than the usual Royal Oak bracelet. There's less contrast, less refinement, so to speak.
Mhm.
Of course, you have the rubber accents on the pushers, crown, as well as the exposed gasket between the octagonal bezel and the case. More prominent when you see it from the profile like this.
Yeah.
You see that slice there?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Is that a rubber gasket? Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it kind of takes that concept of exposed bolts to another level, right? Let's expose more of what are otherwise functional elements of the case construction. I think it's a very handsome watch, the original Beast, which has the reference number 25721, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, this is a fantastic looking piece here.
And Ali would be able to advise you even better when it comes to the offshore diver, because he has one. I'm trying to remember what his reference number was. I believe it's the 15720 that he has. I think the original Beast, I know, Jeremy, you were also kind of dabbling in like, should I go with something maybe vintage or
Yeah.
vintage like? I think that's like one of the original series of the offshore Beast could be an interesting way to go, because they have just celebrated their 30th anniversary, right? The clearly Audemars Piguet is invested in it in the same way that they propped up the Royal Oak on the 40th anniversary and more recently the 50th.
Right.
So it could be an interesting time to pick one up before they might, skyrocket into something else. Not that it is happening as we speak. The entire
No.
market, I think, is in a little bit of a lull now, except
Yeah.
for very desirable, rare, and hype pieces. So
Yeah. The hype pieces are still hype pieces, but offshore prices have really come down a lot in the last few months. Come down enough where I go, oh, maybe if I sold some stuff, I could pick one up.
yeah, and I mean, again, we were talking about this, I think, on an earlier show when you were thinking about it in terms of consolidation, and I think that's still the same project, right?
Yeah. I've not I haven't sold anything yet. I traded one watch for another watch, believe it or not.
You
So,
did. What was that, if I might ask?
this guy right here.
Oh, what is that?
You don't recognize the case?
I do. That's Blancpain, no? 50
No,
fathoms?
no, nothing like that.
Unimatic?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Because 50 Fathoms has that kind of case too.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
So yeah, I got this from a fellow enthusiast, and obviously this is not a high dollar piece, but I think this is going to be a strap monster. Hold on here.
I like those kinds of watches.
I know we have several people that hate the NATO strap, but
Yeah, I think JJ has a strong case against NATO straps. I never thought anyone would be so militantly against them, but yeah, I know JJ doesn't like them.
I think that he doesn't. I think, and this is pure speculation. What I think is he doesn't like about is how that they bunch up on the side and they're kind of clunky, and but I wear NATO's completely different than that. I pull them underneath, and so you get all the stuff, the buckle and everything sits underneath, and here I'll show you.
I see. Let's put that on while you put it on. I wanted to show also what I meant with the 50 Fathoms sets. It's something like this, you see?
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah. But yeah, I like the Unimatic style for sure.
Oh, I'll get it. Through the hole. There it is.
Almost there.
This strap is very stiff right now too, so it's not been worn.
Yeah, that's actually my only case against NATO straps. That fresh out of the box, so to speak, they can be a little stiff. You do need to break them in, and I see how you.
So all of that stuff is underneath, and so the sides of the watch are clean. It just looks like a strap going through there.
Yeah.
And so how you do that is you, instead of putting the watch through the other end like this, and then strapping it up like that with two layers there, you take that second piece and you stick your wrist through here like that.
Ah, okay.
I can't do it. My wrist's so big I can't do it with it hooked on, so I have to fumble with it. But then that so it does two things. You only have one layer here, so it doesn't goof up, that extra few mils, so you only have one layer here, and then it puts the buckle and the keeper and everything on this side of your wrist. So it's just like you're wearing or just like wearing a buckle of some sort.
So. That's a good tactic, good strategy. Yeah, that's cool. I really like it. I love them so much that even when I get a new NATO strap, I actually put like hot water and a little bit of dish soap in a bowl and let them sit a little bit in there, so they soften up a little bit, because I'm not a huge fan of that new NATO strap feeling. It is a little bit too stiff and uncomfortable, but once you break them in, I think they're great. I love using them with all kinds of. In fact, I was just thinking today, if I had some extra time after I came back, I was gonna take off the bracelet from my Janta Jump Hour watch and put that on a NATO strap. But I said I'll do it another day.
Yeah. Well, I have the only bad thing about this watch is it's 22 mil, and almost all my NATOs are 20s.
Right. But you know that's an entire since Dr. No, that's an entire school of style. The ill-fitting NATO strap, you know that.
Yeah, and so I literally I'm gonna try and get them up on Instagram here later, but I took a whole ton of pictures on of that watch on different NATO straps, and so that that's
Yeah, we should.
where I'm going with that.
That does belong to the Instagram. Please hit the like button, guys, when you get the chance. It really does help to boost the stream a little bit. We are coming back to the offshore pieces. So you don't necessarily want to get a chronograph, though, when it comes to the offshore.
I'm not completely opposed to it. I have heard people say that sometimes they need sometimes they need some service work.
That's yeah, I think the so Frederic Piguet caliber 1185 was widely used in these kinds of chronograph pieces throughout AP's line. A lot of Vacheron Constantin self-winding chronographs use them, and of course, some Blancpain pieces too. After all, Piguet's son was actually collaborating with Jean-Claude Biver in reviving Blancpain as a watchmaker, so that seems entirely fitting. And today, that movement maker has been folded into Blancpain in the same way that Lemania has been folded into Breguet, for example. I don't know if they necessarily deserve the kind of reputation they have. I really don't think that they are as problematic as a lot of people paint them to be. Although I have to say, chronograph movements and complicated watches overall, I just took care of it, but thank you. You know, generally require more service and you know cost a little more to service to begin with. So
Right.
if you have an AP chronograph and it needs service, you send it back to AP, you'll pay more.
Right.
So,
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I like chronographs. You know, I particularly like the AP ones where they're stacked on their edge versus where they're more that look there. What do they call that? The 12, 9 and 6 or 6, 9 and 12.
okay, you prefer that look?
In the AP.
Yeah.
It instantly looks like an offshore, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's how they were originally. So it does make absolute sense. This is the 48 millimeter, by the way. It's like it's a real man's watch. Man.
Is that a carbon case?
Black ceramic, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Black ceramic with pink gold accents, you know, on the crown and the pusher.
Yeah. Ah, the Schwarzenegger. The governor.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful man. It's the realization of the American dream. One of my idols, unironically, by the way. I mean, it's I know once every so often I break out the impression and people might get the wrong idea, but it's actually out of pure love, really.
Well, I mean, he's. I mean, he did about everything you could ever imagine, career wise, that
Yeah,
anybody could even fathom. From being the governor of, you know, one of the largest places in the world of all. What I'm saying, their economy is like ninth in the world versus all the countries and everything. That's a
yeah,
huge deal. Um, and plus all the Hollywood, plus all the bodybuilding stuff, and all the I mean, and I kind of love what he preaches. You know, he's not a fad guy. He's a make healthy choices and do the right thing kind of guy. And what I'm saying, and I don't know.
yeah. No, I like him again. Very unironically, to me, in many ways, he is the realization of the American dream. He was a bodybuilder. He was an athlete. He was, um, he married into American royalty, basically. Married a Kennedy.
Right.
He was a very successful movie star, and in an age, where diversity wasn't really a thing. Like they genuinely, I don't know. Last time I was on JJ's show and I was making the impression, I was making fun of one of our Scottish friends there, and it was actually a real life event that Arnold had apparently when he was. The name is escaping me now, but when he was sitting down with one of these famous Italian producers, and he tells him, like, you can't be a movie star. You have an accent. In this obnoxious Italian accent, he tells him, you know, you have an
Right.
accent, and he says, you have an accent. I don't understand the word you're saying, and just gets kicked out of there. But yeah, he made a career as a huge star with a very strong accent in an era where that was, unseen, except for, roles that were designated for villains and comic relief and whatever else.
Right.
And then, like you said, he started a political career, and basically, as someone who is naturalized, as someone who was born out of the United States, he basically reached possibly the highest position he could. It's not like he could become the president, right? So
Well, that's the only. I mean, he could have went into the Senate or something like that. But being the governor of California, in my opinion, and probably most people's opinion, is more prestigious than being a U.S. senator.
yeah, and also I think in that era, being the governor of a big state was, I think, more prestigious than being a senator as well. You would always almost have the strongest presidential candidates, from, governor of Texas, governor of Florida.
Correct.
That was like the
Those are things.
kind of part of course. So
Ron DeSantis and all those folks. They're
yeah, it's still a
you know,
trend. You're absolutely right. It's still a trend. But yeah, this
plus
is
you wouldn't have to live in Washington D.C.
that's also good. Yeah, that's a great idea. I think this is actually a handsome watch for what it is. It's just, for me, it's just too big, even visually. Even when I don't imagine it on my own wrist, it's
Right.
just a monster of a watch.
So I like this, but it's looking a little bit dated and not
Mhm.
in that classic way. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah. In a way, of course, it has some sort of, I don't want to say historical, but it has value in terms of AP's more recent history, because they are obsessed with ceramic as a case and bracelet material recently, and this was, one of those earlier executions, so to speak, from around 2010s. I don't know the exact year. Um, but yeah, it's very different than the way they make ceramic Royal Oaks in this day and age. But it's still a very cool looking watch. An offshore, the Legacy chronograph, a limited edition for Arnold Schwarzenegger of 1,500 pieces. The fixed price is set at 32,000 US dollars. The current bid stands at 21,700 in US dollars. No buyer's premium.
Yeah, at $32,000, I think I would be all the way out. But somewhere around where it's at now, it's not bad. But
Mm-hmm.
is this the sailing racing? I don't know.
Yeah.
I could never pronounce it right.
Alinghi, yeah.
That's it.
The I was gonna say the company, the team that now collaborates with Tudor, right?
Yeah.
And this is an aesthetic, of course, that kind of merges the diver with the chronograph and has a lot of red accents and the Alinghi team logo.
Yeah. I've even seen Speedmasters with that logo. So they kind of all over the map.
You don't like the way they have been getting around, huh?
No, I don't mind it. And actually, the Tudor one with the fixed, I actually really like.
Mhm.
I think I'm in the minority on some folks, but I don't know. It's just something different, I like this clasp.
Yeah,
with the giant AP in it.
I actually love that. It's designed by the same guy who came up with the offshore design. So Emmanuel Gates, the the two initials that sit right on each other, that kind of kiss upon closure. I think it's a very cool design, and it looks even lovelier when it's not actually in use, which is counterintuitive, but exactly in the way you would imagine a luxury watch to be. So
Yeah. I like it. I think it would look better on a bracelet, I guess. Maybe that's just me. Is that a rubber strap, I'm assuming?
yeah, it is rubber.
Rubber. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe in red or something like that to bring out that logo would be better.
No, that's an idea. Yeah, that could be cool. A little too Mr. Wonderful, maybe in this day and age, but still, that would be very cool. That would be very cool.
I don't see Mr. Wonderful wearing this though.
No, maybe not. Maybe not.
Maybe, but
I do like the presentation case as well. Octagonal with like a little porthole here.
A little nod to the bezel design.
Yeah, very cool. So this is the Alinghi team version of the offshore chronograph limited edition, which has, in addition to a 20-minute totalizer at 3:00, has a 10-minute countdown timer configuration as a scale around the center of the dial. The Grand Tapisserie design, like a chocolate bar look, more than the finer squares of the original pattern. Arabic numerals radially placed around the center of the dial for hour markers.
What is the red thing underneath the script?
I am guessing that's some sort of
Is it a power reserve indicator or something? Or is that just aesthetics?
Let me see. 12 o'clock switches between red and black. Ah, no,
Oh,
it's actually very cool. So that's yeah, that basically flashes or blinks at the
yeah.
passage of each minute. So it kind of serves part of the function of the regatta timer, basically, as you're counting down the 10
Right.
minutes.
Yeah.
An interesting complication. I like it, and thanks for alerting me to it, because I was just gonna pass it by.
Well, I you know what I'm saying, it kind of just looks like the aesthetics. It doesn't scream really anything. I mean, it looks like it's could be just part of the design cues.
Yeah, and the immediate thing would be to say, like I did as well. Maybe it's some sort of power reserve indicator, but it's basically part of the countdown timer, where it basically flashes in the form of changing between red and black at the passing of each minute.
So does
Um,
the left side pusher there, is that to rotate the bezel? Does it have an inner rotating bezel? Is that what it is?
yeah, just like the diver, basically. That at
Gotcha.
10 o'clock, that pusher is to rotate this inner bezel, which I think can also serve like a navigational function in this case as well, in addition to being a timing bezel, because it has the
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 degrees.
directions, north, east, west, south.
You got more clowns.
Okay.
Sorry to break the watch talk.
No, it's okay. I mean, I'm used to these trolls at this point. I mean, it's a bitter smile that it brings to my face. Again, um, yeah, I love how these kinds of people are emboldened behind the keyboard. I really like to have a face-to-face talk with them. I'm sure we could learn a lot from each other, if I may put it that way, without breaking TOS. Um, this is lot 6, Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore chronograph for the Alinghi racing team. The fixed price is set at $29,700 US. The bidding stands at 19,450 currently, and as you guys know, there's about 9 hours to go, so we are closing in as we speak. Hmm. Not sure if I like this aesthetic, but this is another Royal Oak Offshore. By the way, the Alinghi was a 44 millimeter that we were looking at.
A tiny one.
Compared to Arnold's watches, this is a 42, so this is even smaller. This is
Oh, yeah.
positively minuscule. It's like a dress watch
That's
version.
right. Comes with matching cufflinks. In that white and blue.
I like it. Yeah, it's like I actually like the red, white, and blue theme on this. I guess obviously taking a cue from the National Classic Tour, which you can enlighten me, Jeremy. Is it probably a golf event of some sort? I'm not too familiar.
What is it called?
The National Classic Tour.
Not sure. I'm not your guy. Maybe somebody
Okay.
in the comments can help us out.
Yeah, so this is a titanium case with a solid titanium case back as well. Blue rubber strap with a titanium folding clasp. And I think you can see some of those details. I believe the bezel is probably DLC coated. I will have to double check on that. And you can see this is titanium as well, the clasp.
Yeah. It's a neat detail. You know what I'm saying? It just kind of cracks me up a little bit. That's all. At least you know you have the official clasp, right?
Yeah. I think honestly, on their dressier pieces, even the Royal Oaks in the jumbo size or reduced size that come on leather straps, in their Jules Audemars chronographs, which are much more classically designed and conservatively proportioned, they don't feel out of place at all. With the offshore, it's I love the design, but I just don't really see it on this watch. So I completely agree with you. Actually, it feels a little out of place. Knowing that it came from the pen of the same designer maybe makes it a little easier to digest.
I'm warming up to it. I'm warming up to it.
Corrado Galizia, $4.99. Good to see you here, my friend. Hey guys, nice to see the butcher on. Yes, I again, if it didn't include the N word, I would have added that tagline to the soundboard. But yes, I love me some Benny the Butcher as well, and his ad lib is one of the best. Except I'm not allowed to say it, so I'll have to live with that. But yeah, I'm not sure what to make of the bezel. I guess it is a nice contrast, with all those colors, the tachymeter and the blue, like navy blue rubber accents as well. Maybe it would have been too dull with a simple titanium in the same gunmetal gray shade.
Right. Is this some kind of limited edition piece or something?
Yeah, I believe so. I don't know if it says here out of, how many out of what. Let's see on the back. It just says limited.
The National Classic Tour. Those look like racing.
Okay, out of 40. Yeah, it does look like racing. It says Luxembourg, Aachen, and what is it? Knokke. Aachen is a German city. Luxembourg is the one of the smallest countries in the world.
Right.
Knokke, I don't know. It's another city, I'm assuming. Where? God only knows. Belgium, apparently. Okay. National Tour.
I wonder if it's some kind of like rally style, not a race, but just a rally.
I didn't really find anything immediately on Google, which is strange. National Classic Tour. Okay. Maybe it's like some sort of classic car thing.
I put it in and the AP watch pulled up first.
Yeah. Fries with mayo says, and he is of he's originally from Belgium, even though he works in Geneva. He says Knokke, and I'm sure I'm butchering the name of the city, so I do apologize, is a fancy beach resort in Belgium.
Okay.
Very cool. Yeah, 1 out of 40 pieces. I kind of like the dial colors. I was expecting some sort of American golf event, but it seems it's more of a European car event of some
Yeah.
sort. But 1 of 40 pieces with the buy it now price fixed at 40,000 US dollars. Several hours left for bidding to close. It stands at 26,300 in US dollars. This is the kind of chronograph I was talking about when I said that buckle maybe feels more in place with something like this.
Yes. That's a beautiful piece right there.
There's a lot I like about this case because it has that slightly domed, polished bezel, brushed sides that are nice and rounded, stubby downturned lugs, which make it wear really nicely. I think right around 39 millimeters to begin with. I think this one has an exhibition case back with that nice full gold AP rotor.
Yeah, that's beautifully finished too.
22 carat gold. The reference number for this piece is 26,100 in white gold. Again, a 39 millimeter case, classic 2-register chronograph look with that off-white / cream dial. Tachometer on the periphery, Breguet numerals with that distinctive knot behind the 4, as you can see there. And a spade set of hands. And I really like how they do the minute hands for those, this sort of delicate, beautifully twisted shape.
Yeah. Is this a modern piece?
Relatively modern. They don't make this line anymore. They have completely discontinued the Jules Audemars line. But I think they made them as recently as late 10s.
Okay.
Let's see when, what year this is from, if they have noted it, because sometimes they don't.
It looks like it could be a classic piece from the 20s or 30s,
Yes, I mean
the dial and style and everything just looks like a definite. It's like they pulled something out of their catalog and said, "Hey, we should make this again," and they made it.
Absolutely, it looks like. Frankly, it does look like. Clearly, a chronograph they could have built in the 40s. Of course, at that time, they were extremely exclusive and in limited numbers for these kinds of pieces. This is, of course, a little bigger, of course, with a self-winding movement, etc., than the kind of piece they would build then. But like you said, it really exudes that spirit. And for a while, they had those two lines named after the founders. You know, there was the Edouard Piguet, and there was the Jules Audemars. So those two lines were more or less very classically inspired, dressy pieces that complemented Royal Oak and Royal Oak Offshore, which were the sportier.
Yeah.
Fry says they do car rallies in Knokke and Bonham car auctions. You can compare it with Deauville in France.
Okay.
And he says, "Good morning,
Morning,
Lord
Fry.
and Butcher. Good morning to you, Fries. Imitation of 1463. That's another way to put it. Not, I wouldn't say imitation because I think it's different enough, but that's the famous Patek chronograph. Their chronograph that sometimes, well, in fact, for the most part, remembered after its Italian nickname, Tasti Tondi, for its round pushers with
Oh,
this conical top and a guilloche finish on them. But yes, so this is Patek's first waterproof chronograph piece, kind of a sports watch of its time, if you look at it from that perspective. Cases made by a famous maker, Francois Bourgel, that in itself became very famous and collectible, like Movado chronographs from the same time period, from the same case maker, already command also a premium, although not to the levels of Patek. I really love that detail on the
yeah.
pushers. But yes, you can, Butcher, you saw it immediately as well. You can see certainly how certain design elements can resonate between, you know, a 40s watch and
Right.
something that's much later but clearly classically inspired.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm totally on board on that modern vintage. You know, as long as it's tastefully done. You know, because you know, I mean, let's face it, the technology has progressed. You know, a lot, and so to have something maybe a little more durable and a little more, you know, and if you owned the vintage piece, you wouldn't want to wear it every day. You know.
That's true. I mean, a lot of, you know, a lot of collectors don't like necessarily wearing some of these kinds of pieces on a daily basis, both due to potential problems with durability, but also because they can be quite dear, right? You know, you can't necessarily compensate for the loss, even if you can, you know, from a monetary perspective, you know, with insurance, etc.
But
These
sometimes you
are
just can't replace it. Like you know, they don't come up for sale, or you
right.
know.
Absolutely. Um, I have actually very recently worn one of these in stainless steel because Eric Wind had brought one of them to Los Angeles on the trip.
Does he have a boutique out here, or consign with a boutique out there as well?
He has an interesting arrangement with the streetwear brand Kith. He has like about half a dozen watches in their store. His he has some associates here, so he can certainly, you know, if let's say you are, you know, in some American city and like a major city where he has associates and you really are dying to see a watch before you buy it, I'm sure he could be able to arrange
Yeah.
something. And if you are in West Palm Beach, he would be more than happy to, you know, show some watches to you. I'm sure
Right.
with some prior arrangement. But this is the same style. although a different kind of dial and a stainless steel version, but same proportions. I
See,
think it
this has a
wears
much
beautiful.
more modern look to it.
Yes, like already the dial changed and the material of the case gives it a very different feel.
Yeah.
But everything else is the same, like the case shape, even the pushers.
Are the
the
hands
lo-
the same?
no,
Okay.
the hands are like pencil hands on these.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a
wears
great
really
looking
nice.
watch, though.
Yeah, wears really beautifully.
Yeah. And you said this is white gold?
Yeah, this one is white gold, and the stainless steel version also had a solid case back. So this is a little
Yeah.
kind of more elevated execution of it in so many ways.
Right.
This particular example also is a full set, box and papers,
Yeah.
and stands right at $20,000 at lot 4,
You know,
reference number 26100. Yeah.
at the low to mid 20s, I still think that's a pretty good buy for a precious metal piece from a company like AP. I don't know.
I'm a fan of more vintage styled watches, and I'm a I'm a Royal Oak fanboy through and through, but it's I do miss more classical stylings from AP as well. So for me, that's a great watch, but there's a reason that it got discontinued,
Sure.
Clearly, there wasn't much demand for those kinds of pieces from AP.
Right. What do you
And
think the the original list price on this was? Do you think it was 40, 50 grand?
the original list price?
Yeah.
Let me see.
I'm armchair investing right here.
Honestly, I mean, I can easily see 60, 70 even.
Yeah. I have this. Okay, this is just me looking at some of the trends in the watch. In my now I'm not a I haven't been collecting very long, but um, I see a lot of companies bringing out smaller size watches again. 39 is the new standard, and 36s are becoming more and more prevalent. And I don't know. I think I think in the next, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, we may see a shift back to more dress watches.
I think that's not wrong, because a lot of the most ambitious collectors, I think, spent the last decade or more just getting every single cool sports watch known to man. First in their
Right.
stainless steel versions, and then even precious metal and gem set iterations as well.
Yeah.
Of course, the integrated bracelet genre played its part in that cannibalization of the market. A lot of those people, though, they're either tired from that style or they have already gotten everything they wanted, but they still can't scratch the itch, right? They have to get their fix because it's an addiction also in part.
Right.
So they're venturing into things that are more novel to them, that are really blind spots in their collection. So smaller watches, dressier styles, even more vintage inspired, and vintage dress watches seem to be catering to that need more readily than many other genres. So I don't disagree. And we were just talking about it over the last few days as well. A lot of brands like Longines, for example, but it's not only limited to them, have started releasing reduced sized versions of some of their most popular lines, right? And that counts for something, right? There's a 39 millimeter version of the Zulu Time now. That there are smaller versions of their dress watches too. 37 from 39.
Right.
So a lot of attention over the next few years, I think, from the brands towards reduced sized pieces, towards unisex pieces, even, right? That fit in that spot between 36, 37, maybe 38, that can kind of fit a bunch of different people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Rolex did it with the two-tone 36 Explorer. The PRX just released the line of 35, the 35 PRX, the Tissot's. I mean, everybody's doing, and I think one of the things that they're learning is that there are more women collectors than what they really know about, and that they haven't really tapped into that market. I'm thinking, because women buy a lot of jewelries and things, but you don't see them generally as collectors. But I think more and more you see women doing that, and I think, that's it's another 50% of the market that they haven't really gone after in a way that speaks to them, because they don't want a little tiny watch with diamonds and in pink. They want something, functional and more in style. I don't know. That's another another guess out of my brain on why they're moving to some of these smaller sizes.
No, that's a good way of putting it. I wanted to respond to Mr. French Fries Monster. I made a video of this on the Royal Oak 50th anniversary as well, and I'm trying to find my video. It doesn't come readily to me, but I have my script right here, and I wrote exactly about this aspect of Janta's design. But I want to welcome Ali first before I self-indulge there.
Hello.
Hey, Ali.
Hey,
How are you
buddy.
doing, man?
I am all right. You have one of my. God, I hope they bring the jewels back, but I doubt they will.
And so Mr. French Fries Monster was asking, do you see the integrated bracelet watch as a dress watch or as a sports watch? The current market seems to see them as dressy enough for special events. I will bring in the panel on this too, but this is what I wanted to share. So at the urging of Carlo De Marchi and other agents for Audemars Piguet, the managing director, Georges Gollet, took the risk of creating a radically new prestige timepiece, elevating stainless steel into an elite luxury material. This new wristwatch was conceived as a true lifestyle product from the very first, a timepiece that was equally at home in the capital of precise timekeeping in Geneva, of international fashion in Milan, of sophisticated nightlife in Paris, of burgeoning European industrialism in Turin, of jet-set lifestyle in the French Riviera and beyond. So the idea of the Janta design from the very first was to combine, and this is again something that I wrote earlier, the elite horological achievement and delicate elegance of an ultra-thin, self-winding mechanical movement on the one hand, and AP was mostly famous for ultra-thin dress watches before the Royal Oak came into being, and these elements of a brute modern technology and industrial production with the exposed bolts on the bezel and the conveyor belt like bracelet. Strangely compelling blend of beautiful simplicity and industrial brutalism. It's good writing, gents. Good prose there from yours truly. But yes, I wanna. I'm also very humble, so I wanna pass the mic to you guys. What do you think about the entire genre? Or you can also just pick your favorite. You know, whether it's the Nautilus or the Royal Oak, and whether you look at it as a sports watch, a dress watch, or a little bit of both.
Jeremy, you want to open or you want me to?
Yeah, I'll go here. Having not experienced any of them in real life, I think of the Royal Oak specifically, and I think about with its sizing. I think it's a fantastic do-it-all piece. So, you know, it's one of those you could one and done a Royal Oak if you wanted to, because it plays both parts. It's like a blue button-up shirt. Everything you add to it makes it go either you could be super casual like you're in now, or you could button it up, put a tie on it, and put a jacket on it, and it would still be fine. Does that make sense? And I think those are the elements that are in there. Like if you wear it with shorts and jeans, you notice the exposed screw heads and things like that. But if you wear it with a nice jacket or something, when you pull it out of the cuff and you see that bracelet, it looks like a fantastic piece of jewelry. And that's probably my favorite thing about the Royal Oak is the bracelet looks like, even if you didn't have a watch attached to it, it looks like a type of bracelet that you could wear for style. And to me, that's why it works in both of those situations.
And interestingly, right, you know, that aspect of the proximity of highly polished and grain brushed parts that give that bracelet that visual interplay and makes it so much like jewelry is also an element of its design that makes it look very industrial as well. And it literally looks like a conveyor belt, you know, if you can
Right.
mute that jewelry aspect of it, at least in your mind when you're looking at it. So it kind of carries those both facets at once.
And I think the other thing too is the timing of it, you know, because this came out mid 70s, 75, something like that. If I'm not
72.
mistaken.
Royal Oak
72.
72.
Okay, think about how much, especially in the last 25 years, how much our personal style has changed. Like, you know, in the 60s or whatever, you had to have a leather strap dress watch under a suit that you wore to the office every day. In the 70s, that started to move. I mean, there was still some of that, but the fashion and the style moved a little bit away from those particular precision points, so to speak.
Mhm.
You know, it used to be fashion was pretty precise. You know, you had all the details. And then we went to bell bottoms and white, you know, high heel shoes for men. You know, like that whole change was happening about the time when the Royal Oak came out. And so,
All right. No. You got to try these on before you. No, you're broadly. I would say that I agree with a lot of sentiment. However, the Royal Oak is kind of The Royal Oak's a unique case because Royal Oak means the 15202, the 16202, which is distinctly a very flexible watch, but I would almost argue is more at home as a dress watch than a sport watch. Whereas the 15500 series, 15510, 15550s, I would say is probably more versatile on the right size person because cuffs aren't nearly as tight as they were before, and cuffs and cuff links are not nearly as delicate as they were even 15 years ago, right? But then you have, like, the Santos. It's integrated. There's integrated bracelet options with the Santos, which in its large form is distinctly a sports watch, and its medium and small is distinctly a dress watch. Then you have Royal Oak inspired, or I shouldn't say inspired, maybe like second cousin watches, like the Chopard Alpine Eagle. In any configuration, the Chopard Alpine Eagle is only a sports watch. There is not a single version of that which you can pull off under a cuff dress watch as cleanly as the Royal Oaks because of the contouring of the case. So it varies really dramatically. And then you have the issue of complications because you have some Royal Oaks that are very complicated and ultra thin. They will fit very nicely under a cuff, and some of the complications are upscale, I would say, right? But then you have, chrono complications, and I don't care who you are, a chrono complication doesn't belong on a dress watch, right? Like, at least that's my heathen opinion. So, I also don't think, if you take a look at, and this is actually not as hard to do as maybe you would think, if you take a look at old advertisements, or older fashion magazines and whatnot, you will see a lot of integrated bracelet worn in formal settings since they first became a thing with the Royal Oak. So I don't think it's, to Mr. Frenchliner's question, I don't think it is a current market type of thing. I really think the integrated bracelet from the very beginning was versatile and meant to be versatile.
Yeah, and also, remember that around the same time that the Royal Oak came out, a lot of these brands, including AP, but also Patek and Vacheron, had integrated bracelets, dress watches, right? Different designs, of course, from a design perspective when compared to the Royal Oak, but those bracelets that are cut to size, that,
which, by the way, was a remarkable era for watches. You couldn't even really get away with that today.
No, they don't really make watches like that. I mean, Swiss was here last time around, and the two of us were talking about it. It's a style that's almost entirely gone away, but the conversation was sparked because we were looking at this particular piece here at in Eichen's like separate lots, where you have Lange 1 from early 2000. You see, like the integrated bracelet version without the lugs and everything.
Yeah, it's like the jewelry bracelet.
So it's that kind of style that was pretty popular with dress watches in the 70s as well. So it can go both ways.
I have a old Omega that belonged to my grandfather that has one of these style integrated jewelry bracelets.
So yes, I was saying I'm from our current perspective, I think it's much more difficult to draw those lines to begin with, because the rules, if they are not completely gone, are disregarded by majority anyway. So people wear whatever, whenever, wherever. So it's very hard to issue these kinds of rules. Not that I would like to do that with any sort of authority, but I think the general outlines we have staked out more or less hold. And I would say some of the best integrated bracelet designs really straddle both ends of that spectrum quite well. And I do want to take us back to one of the first things that Jeremy said. It's like nice blue button-up shirt that you can wear with everything, and depending on how you combine it with other elements of your style, you'll be foregrounding either the dressier aspects or the more casual and sporty aspects of the watch. Though at the end of the day, I think I also want to underline something that Ali said, that the Royal Oak especially is a sporty watch. It's not a sports watch by the standards of it that we have today, right? In terms of water resistance, in terms of even power reserve, in terms of its profile and how it sits on the wrist. It kind of doesn't really jive with what we think as a sports watch in the 21st century. I don't say that, by the way, as a way of outlining necessarily a lack or deficiency on the part, but sometimes when people hear these terms like integrated bracelet sports watch, sports watch in general, people expect it to be an ISO certified diver or something like that, always expect a screw down crown and whatever else. So just to point it out, it's Royal Oak never aspired to be that kind of sports watch anyways. I think it sits right in the middle, in my understanding.
What's always been strange to me about the Royal Oak is the Royal Oak was also never meant to be even slightly, and they've never been shy about it. It's never meant to be even slightly durable from the standpoint of like basic upscale recreation. Not even like badminton ready. It's never been that watch. So it's almost like, in a sense, it was I'm trying to think of a good way to say this without being too overly insulting, because it is also my favorite watch, but it's almost in a sense like what you would consider a preppy brand today. There are preppy brands that are very fashionably sporty that people will wear, but not a single athlete or a single person will ever wear them during an athletic endeavor.
Right. I mean, would you actually wear a tennis or cricket sweater to engage in those sports? Not really, but
exactly, yeah, and that's the Royal Oak. Like, that's
stylish,
the equivalent.
Yeah.
What's a cricket sweater?
Young Brando will now get up and go to his closet, and he will bring back his cricket sweater.
I could actually, but
oh no, I said it with confidence. There was like zero doubt that you have one, and that's not an insult. It's that Young Brando actually.
I have multiple.
Do you follow Young Brando on Instagram, Butcher?
I do, yeah.
All right, so I did for the longest time. There was this dude, Young Brando, following me, and I'm like, well, he's kind of cool, but I have no idea who it is. And I minimize who I follow on Instagram to like people I interact with or know, because otherwise it becomes kind of overwhelming. But Young Brando has he posts these pictures of historical like cool cats and stuff like that all the time, and it's freaking hilarious to me. Because every time he posts a picture, in my head, it could be him. I could totally picture him in whatever he's posting every single time.
Thank you. I try.
Young Brando, this is not the portly guy look, the sweater like that.
Look, I mean, it's I think an Aran sweater would be great on a guy with your physique.
Yeah.
This can look, something like this can look positively dorky, if you don't really know how to combine it in a certain way, and if you don't feel comfortable in it to begin with.
Right.
And even like, even on someone who has that kind of physique that you're talking about, 99% of the time, it probably looks dorky anyways. It's about owning that dorkiness and nerdiness. I'm a nerd, so to me, whatever it looks like, I love it. I own it. But
Yeah.
yeah, this is the look.
Yeah. Well, and I, it could be 25 degrees and snowing, and I'm usually wearing a short sleeve shirt because I just get hot. So I think I own one sweater somewhere.
I
You
run
spent years
Hutter
building
Cloth.
up these layers of insulation.
That's
You
right.
should use them.
I have plenty of personal insulation. I don't need to buy insulation.
No, I'm not fat. I'm just well marbled.
That's right.
So JB, thank you so much as a member as well. $4.99. I like the Jules, which is the chronograph we were looking at earlier, and UTM, which is what we're looking at now. This is the famous two-tone execution that AP had all across the line, with Royal Oaks as well. Tantalum for the primary case material with pink gold accents, and like a salmon tinted dial as well. The same Frédéric Piguet 1185 south winding movement that we were just talking about. Butcher, in the case of the Royal Oak offshore chronographs.
Gotcha.
A lot of times when you see that layout on an AP chronograph, there's a good chance that it's the Piguet 1185. That's the base.
I still like it. I mean, it's well balanced and kind of has that unique, it looks AP,
Yeah, I love this case shape too, and there's something obnoxious but also kind of charming about the over branding as well. You have the inscription here on the bezel at 12 o'clock. You have the initials right next to the date window at 3 o'clock. Then you have another inscription, Audemars Piguet and automatic. So it can be a little much, but still there's something cool.
Does it have the fold out AP clasp too? Or no, this just had a buckle.
No, not this one, but I have seen some that have the initials clasp. See, we were looking just momentarily at this stainless steel example, which, by the way, is a very good deal. Speaking of the kind of deals you can get. No, this is also another kind of clasp, which clearly didn't belong originally to this watch, but
I have a completely unrelated question, but you just said it and it really threw me for a loop. You called Jake Brooks JBJB. Is Jake Brooks actually JBJB?
No, God forbid. No, I may have. I said JB. I didn't double it up. That's
Okay,
another
I thought
guy,
you doubled it up, and I kind of sat there and went, "That would be shocking to me if Jake Brooks was JBJB."
I don't like that JBJB guy, to be honest. Yeah.
It's like the demeanors are dramatically different, so I thought I would seriously miss something. I've got nothing against JBJB, but their demeanors.
I don't think he would want to hang out with me. Whereas, Jake Brooks is my friend. I visited him in Austin. He was extremely hospitable.
Yeah,
to me.
exactly. That's why I was like, it's not the same personality. So okay, and it threw me for such a loop. I had to ask before you continued.
Wow, this is a very good one. Look, it has that,
Is that navy or is that just black? That's like a matte finish black.
kind of a gunmetal gray, I think, but like a slate gray that also looks in a way like, much like tantalum. It's mostly gunmetal gray, but there's like a slight hint of blue in it.
Yeah,
I think the dial is like that too. And yeah, like JB was saying, these things were 15,000 plus just a little more than a year ago. Now they are more or less back to normal, almost back to four figures.
Yeah.
Mr. French Fries Monster says it looks like there are some similarities between integrated bracelets and premium SUVs for cars. We were just talking about this with Jeremy. I said, like, most brands, like the car manufacturers, who have leaned hard on SUV, especially, I think, in the wake of Porsche's success. First, I might be wrong on the timeline because I don't understand cars, so feel free to correct me. In a similar way, or in a similar vein, a lot of watch brands realize like there's a lot of money that can be made if they only come up with their own version of the integrated bracelets luxury watch, and they weren't necessarily wrong.
Yeah.
And JB says inner chrono track for the tachymeter on the periphery of the dial.
Ooh.
And JB reminds Ali Reza, I was on the show a couple of days ago where we were talking about Bo Jackson.
Bo Jackson, the football, baseball guy?
Yeah, that was precisely the point of conversation because JB is also similarly interested in, baseball, football, and was himself a multi-sport athlete. Yeah, I think even for part of college as well. I'm not gonna necessarily reveal which sports, but yeah. So we were talking about Bo Jackson. Well, he was educating me on Bo Jackson. Let me put it like that.
Bo Jackson. So I was living in Kansas City when he was playing for the Royals. So
Nice.
yeah, I saw him break a bat over his thigh many a time in person.
He was
Well, that
something else in terms of just pure athletic prowess.
that was, by the way, exactly the memory that JB recited, right? That was kind of seeing Bo Jackson smash a baseball bat on his knee was probably one of the most like supremely powerful things that he saw in person or in close proximity early on, and that really inspired him in an important way. Even though it's a destructive act, I mean, I can certainly see how it can be inspiring as well.
Right. Well, just the
No, I would say it's a little bit different actually. Like breaking the baseball bat, the players should do it over their helmet or over their knee, which are very few and far between. I don't consider that the same as the players who go into the dugout and just destroy the water cooler and things like that. I think that's a completely different action.
Yeah.
Right. It is technically, obviously, it is destructive, but it feels like one of those things that, like for mere mortals, like in frustration, crushing a can in your hand. Fairly harmless action.
Right.
Right. Whereas when players go into the dugout and use the baseball bat to actually cause, like, harm to the rest of the equipment, to me is actually a turnoff, like an actual turnoff.
Well, yeah,
Young Brado, I just want to confirm with you, you will be going tomorrow night, correct?
I'll be on. Yeah, I put it up now as well, but I'm for now I'm more
streams.
Right. For now I'm more focused on the one that I will do 1 p.m. my time, which I believe is 4 p.m. yours. And in your neck of woods, Butcher, I think it's 3
p.m.
3, I want to say.
It's already.
You are 2 hours ahead, right? Compared to Los Angeles?
Let's see. It goes Rocky Mountain time and then West Coast. So yeah, it's 2 hours from here.
So you are 1:26 now? 1:26 a.m. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it will be 3 p.m. for your time, 4 p.m. for Ali's time, and 1 p.m. in Pacific Daylight Savings.
I will try to
Um,
tune in to your first show from Steel Buffalo Motors. I will at least try to tune in, and then I will be available at night in case you do run the second show. So wish you the best of luck, but you have a good night. I'm going to go crash. I am not entirely coherent at this point, but I saw a really nice Jules on the screen and I had to jump on. But I'm going to start slurring words and mumbling about Cheetos or something soon. So, fat people mumbles. All right, gentlemen, have a good night. And young Brando, I will see you tomorrow.
Thank you, Ali.
Thank
Nice
you, my
to see you
friend.
as always. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, I think it sounded fine, but of course he needs some rest. I understand that. And he needs
Well,
3
they
hours.
had a couple of big shows the last couple of days, so I know that they were working really hard for all that. So
Yeah, I know that was a great show, by the way, for JJ when they interviewed one of TPG Anthony Ferrer's associates in Wesley just yesterday. Right? Yeah, it was just yesterday.
yeah,
Man, I'm so tired myself that I can barely keep track of time. But yeah, please do take a look. I mean, I know a lot of my audience is very much shared with JJ's Watch Hangout, so maybe this is not necessarily of any specific kind of help, but if you have not yet done so, please subscribe to JJ's Watch Hangout as well. Previously known as the Gentleman's Hangout. They decided they don't want to be gentlemen anymore. They decided to let it all hang out, and it became JJ's Watch Hangout. And they have been actually doing much, much better in terms of numbers since. So there is something good about that name change. So this, we were talking about Breguet chronographs earlier, Jeremy and I. So I thought it would be appropriate to take a look at Breguet chronograph from an earlier era, so to speak. This was actually one of the wristwatches that Daniel Roth basically designed and pioneered in introducing in that revival era, the 3230 and 3237, which is the sapphire caseback, sapphire display back version of this classic chronograph. What you are looking at is the Lemania CH27, the classic base movement that gave us none other than Omega 321, the Moonwatch movement, here with Breguet's distinctive Y-shaped chronograph bridge and swan neck regulator, among other things. A beautiful finish as well, with many lovely black polishing and anglage details and perlage or circular graining on the base plate as well. Of course, the column wheel is right there for you.
I think that's one of the things that I respect most is the use of color and finishing to really make the mechanical things stand out.
Mhm.
You know, 'cause if they were all the same, all the same finish or whatever. It would operate fine. It would still be beautiful, but you wouldn't, uh, like even just looking at the different finishing on the screw heads, and
Yeah.
like that, it's you can start looking in one place. When you look at it immediately, the purple jewels and the gold wheels grab your attention, but then I'm drawn to the darker materials below, and then I start noticing the row of screw heads all the way around, and you can really just get lost in like a great painting. You know what I'm saying? It's the true artistry of the mechanics. It's just
Yeah.
you could blow up a picture of this and put it on your wall and it'd be a fantastic art piece.
For sure. Yeah, I think, like you said, Butcher, even in a photograph, which obviously is two-dimensional, right? Those elements of what we call quickly high horological finishing techniques really add so much dimensionality, so much depth into it that your attention is drawn to different aspects of the movement, and the more you learn, the more it becomes interesting as well to see how they precisely highlight or treat different elements of a complicated movement, and how different brands perhaps specialize in certain kinds of finishing and do it better than others. It's all nice artistic elements to discover. And what you were saying about the heat blued Breguet hands, I think, really comes to comes into view here. The Breguet style
This
hands.
is the epitome of everything I think of when I think of Breguet, except for the Roman numerals.
Mhm.
If it had Arabic style numerals, then it would be everything that I think of in Breguet.
Yeah, and the silver dial produced out of a gold blank, guilloche, hand guilloche, so engine turned by hand, various different patterns for decoration. Here, you can see the hobnail for the center of the dial and this sort of wavy pattern for the chronograph registers. Breguet frosted track for the hours, which are Roman numerals, the two secret signatures that flank Roman numeral 12. Of course, the heat blued hands, which are Breguet styled or palm or apple shaped at their tips for the hour and minutes. And of course, the two plaques, right? One with the inscription of the brand signature at 12 o'clock, and one with the number of the movement, which is unique to each watch at 6 o'clock. These are all elements that Daniel Roth actually took from pocket watches that Abraham Louis Breguet made in his time and kind of adapted to the styling of the wristwatches. Some of the case finishing elements that we were looking at the Type 20 are present here too. The coin edging for the entire case band or fluting, the teardrop shaped lugs, the finely domed bezel, this is a full set, as you guys can see. 36 millimeter case, which wears a little larger than what that might indicate, because those lugs extend the perfectly round case quite a bit along the wrist. It might still strike you as small if you are interested in or used to bigger watches, but I think this is a beautiful dress chronograph in yellow gold.
I think those extended lugs, though, really accentuate the perfect roundness of the case.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? It kind of stretches the strap out just a little bit further, so it's not, you know what I'm saying? It kind of gives it a little breath, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. Gondog, nice to see you, man. And I like the Swedish accent on your greeting. Love it. Thank you for dropping by. It's nice to see you on the stream as well. He says the Guilloche dial is gorgeous, but I would wear that Breguet chronograph upside down. Yeah, the movement is just as breathtaking, if not more. And again, there's a resurgence of interest in Daniel Roth or in Daniel Roth as an independent watchmaker, and accordingly, there's also an increased demand on or interest in early Breguet pieces too, but the 3230, 3237, which is the reference number of this specific chronograph, is still a decent enough deal, not necessarily for this example, but if you're patient, if you search hard enough, and I'll be more than happy to help if you want to communicate with me. There are some very good deals, if you are looking for a classic dress chronograph like this. Apparently there's about less than 11 and a half hours left. Bidding stands at 34,300 with the fixed price 48,000 in US dollars. No buyer's premium involved.
Yeah, I think this is a fantastic watch, and the ties to Daniel Roth too is probably driving that price a little bit.
Let me see what I have saved up elsewhere, because I kind of try to keep some of these watches in check, at least on Chrono 24. Yeah, they have been going up and up, but there's there's an even earlier example on Chrono 24. That's the buy it now price is around 25,000, and you can even try to suggest a price that's even cheaper.
Are the waves on those dials going a different direction than the other watch we were looking at?
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
not going crazy here.
This is an earlier example, presumably, because even though the number is blurred, I can more or less see this is a 3-digit, whereas the other caliber was in 3000s. So yeah, it's a very cool piece. But yeah, I would highly recommend just feel out the market for a 3230 or 3237. Of course, the yellow gold is the easiest to find. Well, I mean, not that there's there's a whole treasure trove of them, but they're out there. Pink gold a little harder, and I think white golds are even more rare. And I'm sure there were a few platinum ones made here and there too, which must be incredibly rare and certainly carry a lot of premium. This is really an amazing piece, and I like the kind of presentation that they have too. The wooden boxes are, quite lovely, whether they are the longer rectangular ones or the, more substantive square-like ones. I like those wooden boxes that Breguet has. I think I'm gonna go for about 20 more minutes. I won't necessarily oblige or force Jeremy to stay, but I hope he is still in there. I wanted to take a look at a few more interesting pieces here that we don't necessarily see every day. I think this is a lovely example of the Daniel Roth chronograph. You can see certain elements of the Breguet style, although here he took them in a very different direction. First of all, the guilloche finish here is a kind of pinstripe pattern throughout. The gadroons, as they are sometimes transliterated or adapted from French. Roman numerals again on the hour track. Here they're accentuated by brilliant cut diamonds on the top of each index. You can probably tell that this is a self-winding chronograph movement based on Zenith El Primero caliber 400 from the placement of the date window as well as the continuous running seconds at 9. And instead of the Breguet styled hands, Daniel Roth had for his brand the arrow shape. This is what he calls the master's chronograph, and here with a blue dial.
I do like the I'm going to say it incorrectly, I'm sure, but the anchor looking piece on the chrono hand in the running seconds.
Yeah, the counterweight. Yeah,
The counterweight, that's it. I think that's an attractive styling element.
I think so. Yeah, I think, both the chronograph seconds and the continuous running seconds has it. I think both aesthetically and functionally, it's a very pleasing element. I've always liked counterweights. Whether it's something that, I don't know, resonates with the larger design of the watch, or maybe it's distinctive for the brand. I think here it fits nicely with the arrow-shaped hands, and maybe also, because you called them an anchor, maybe the blue has that sort of nautical association as well. So maybe it goes with that too.
Yeah. It is hard to go from that beautiful Breguet with those lovely fire blued hands to those, which they're all fine. I just, you could tell he was trying very hard to not be Breguet styled when he did his hands.
Of course, because again, a lot of theories abound when it comes to why Daniel Roth didn't necessarily take off when as an independent brand, when it could have or when it even should have. Of course, some of these distinctive aesthetic elements are part of the reason, right? He really leaned hard on a very unique case shape, right? The double ellipse or ellipsocurvex is a shape like no other. It is immediately recognizable, but it's a love it or hate it kind of thing, right? Some people love it, most people hate it.
See, I'm in the love it camp. I look
Me
at
too.
this I instantly know that it's probably a Daniel Roth. Um, it it I don't know. There's a bit of elegance to it without copying somebody else's elegance. Does that
Mhm.
make sense? Like
Yeah,
it kind of along, you think of traditional dress watches and some of the, like Cartier tanks and things like that. In that, it gives you kind of that elongated feel a little bit of a dress watch
mhm.
without being a rectangle.
And also, in addition to that elliptical shape that is given, uh, at least on the flanks, some of the feeling and shaping of a rectangle. You also have a very multi-dimensional and almost sculptural case construction too, when you look at it from the profile and from the attachment and styling of the lugs as well.
Yeah.
It's very unique, um, and I think it goes well actually with the chronograph design, even though the chronographs are not necessarily one of my favorite by him. I do like these stainless steel Zenit El Primero based versions, and I think they still, for the most part, away from these kinds of auctions, provide some sort of value. The finishing is not to the level of the Breguet that we were looking at, but it's not completely, you know, uh, unremarkable either.
Right.
But I think the colors are amazing. I've always admired the integral elements of the design. For example, how it has that half, uh, ellipsocurvex
Right.
shape
It
echoed
mimics the style there.
on the clasp, and with the same, pinstripe design too. So I really like that. And this is again a master's chronograph by Daniel Roth with a blue dial with the pinstripe guilloche, to put it quickly, and diamonds as additional hour markers to the Roman numerals. Right now, the bidding stands at 17,150, with the Byte Now price at fixed at 22,815 US dollars. No buyer's premium involved. Once again, I think we're gonna talk about one more watch, Jeremy. So I'm gonna let you choose it again. Let me start from the end this time, and you tell me to stop
Uh,
whenever.
all right. All right. Why don't you go all the way to the back to where we started? There was one watch that kind of caught my eyes that I know a little bit about. Not
Okay.
here, but the very bottom. Is that where you started?
Okay. Right here,
It
you
looked
mean?
like it was a Zenith El Primero. Is that what that is?
Yeah, this one.
Yeah.
This is the barrel-shaped case.
Yeah.
Let's take a closer look at it. We were just looking at a Danny Roth chronograph.
Say we were looking at this movement, but now in a different. To me, I've always loved these. I even like the new Chronomaster Sports that have that kind of almost Daytona-y look. But I think
Mhm.
um, I don't know. I like this kind of dirty brownish gray color on these, and I don't know, it's just
Mhm.
something you don't see very often. Does that make
You know,
sense?
you're a guitar guy, so you would know probably this, but like you remember the old silver burst finish they would use on Gibsons, especially Les Pauls, that age
Yeah,
in a certain way.
in the 70s.
Yeah, so this dial kind of looks like that. You know, it has that khaki kind of shade in certain parts, even though it's mostly like a gradient gray.
Yeah. I don't know. Something about this is a watch that I would own and wear because it's got that particular style. It's, the history of the movement. I even like this racing style leather
Mhm.
strap too.
Honestly, for me, I prefer the El Primero in this case shape as well. Probably I'm in the minority, but for me, it also serves to distinguish it from the more recent generations where it starts looking a little bit like a,
Daytona.
like a Daytona, right? Um, and honestly, I think both in the revival version and in a vintage um, original, the A385, this barrel shaped case that I think has also its like distinctive ladder style bracelet as well, which I completely detest, by the way, with all due respect.
Okay,
Um,
could be wrong.
but I really like it on a rally style strap, and I know again in today's understanding we associate sports watches with bracelet watches, integrated or not, right?
Well, we
So
think
we
we think waterproof, so it's either got to be on a rubber strap or a bracelet. Because leather doesn't really do well in water.
That's a very good way to put it, actually. That's an important part, a very important part of that perception. But when it comes to these sorts of uh, vintage or classically styled chronographs, even when they're sporty, I really like them on a leather strap. On this sort of perforated rally style, they keep that sporty ethos. You can, especially if they are like round cased pieces, you can put them on a more elevated leather strap if you so choose, and
Sure.
it can even look like a dressier piece depending on the dial color and the execution. The less registers, I think, the more possibility to use it as a dress watch, right? When you have two small chronograph registers and no date, that essentially ends up being, you know, a time only watch. If you
Right.
engage the chronograph seconds, it doesn't make much difference, right?
Yeah.
um
But you could take this and put it on a, I think if you put this on a black, uh, either nice Horween
mhm.
or even a crocodile, alligators, or even something like ostrich for something interesting, it would bring out more of the black tones that are on that inner bezel there.
Mhm.
Where the brown here is really accentuating the kind of khaki color in the middle.
Absolutely, yeah. I can
Brings
I
that
can
whole
think of
style
it
of
like that.
that watch.
So one question from me. This doesn't bother me at all, but for some people it does. Do you mind the different proportions when you look at the three registers? Do you mind the fact that the hour counter is much smaller than the two big eyes for the other two sub dials?
Actually, aesthetically for me, I think it makes the watch have better symmetry, especially since you
Mhm.
have the date window in the 430. Because let's be honest, the seconds and the minutes are more important to read than the hour. and so
Yeah.
it doesn't. And I love how the hour hand at the 12 o'clock position there lines up to where it's touching or just underneath the red chrono hand, and so
Yeah.
it's like one long piece there, and so it all I don't know, I think it makes it come together. Plus, by making it a little bit smaller, you get more of that beautiful gradient dial. You have more room for
Mhm.
that. So aesthetically, I think they did it right.
Yeah, I don't mind it either here. Honestly, in some watches, sometimes it irritates me. Another one where I like a similar aesthetic. It's a little different. The second generation overseas chronograph
Mm.
has three registers of varying diameter, with the minute counter being the largest as a big eye. Um, but yeah, I think it comes together. I mean, this entire watch I think comes together really well. I have been also a big fan, again, to repeat, of the A 385 Revival. Not necessarily on the ladder bracelet. I never um, really got that, but this is the watch that I'm talking about. And over the years, with all the price hikes, it has gone all the way up to 9,000
Ooh,
um, with the bracelets. But I really do like this watch.
yeah. I've never worn that bracelet, so I don't have any experience with it. I do like the styling of it, but to me, it looks like the mid 70s.
Yeah,
That
I think that's a very good way to put it. I think, you basically get the styling of a full stainless steel bracelet, but perhaps the effect of perforations with this. So maybe some more airflow. You might like the styling. Thank you, but I hate it. um, but all of that being aside, I think you put it best when you said it's a little dated. It looks like it belongs to a very specific time period, late 60s, 70s, or maybe 80s to a certain extent. Um, but otherwise, this is a watch that I really like, and I think it looks quite handsome in this revival version, in this contemporary iteration, especially on a simple calfskin leather strap.
yeah,
Very cool piece. We were looking at it as lot 70 of the In Eichen chronographs auction, with the buy it now price fixed at 10,300 in US dollars. And with less than 11 hours to go, the bidding stands at $5,050 for this vintage version.
yeah.
The date is not specified, but there we go. This is lot 70 for the In Eichen Chronographs 2023 auction.
And I think at this, somewhere between $5,000 and $7,000, I think would be a good price on that watch. I'm not sure I would pay $10,000 for it. Maybe I'm
Yeah,
maybe I'm being chintzy. I don't think it's
which
in that good a shape.
yeah, which for the modern example, it's basically there by now, right? 9,000 plus tax.
Yeah.
The
Well, and
bracelet version,
I'm sure you can get a discount on that too.
sure. You have to try. At least you have to try. Um, before we conclude, just to add a few things that Mr. French Fries Monster is saying. I'm tempted by a Gérard Perregaux Richeville 2710 with a similar dial, quite hard to find. GP has those Richeville chronographs as well, quite cool, which is a similar dial configuration to the Breguet, as French Fries was saying, which is very interesting. I have two European folks here. Both took some version of fries with their name. Fries with mayo, being an earlier subscriber to this channel, has precedence, and he is Belgian.
Very good.
Whereas Mr. French Fries Monster, as far as I know, is French and lives in Bavaria. So you guys will have to fight out the rights over that, perhaps. But again, I'll continue calling fries with mayo the OG fries, and Mr. French Fries Monster simply fries, I think.
Simply fried.
Mr. French Fries Monster, Daniel Roth case is so distinctive. It's not a copy of his previous job at Breguet, but has a similar feel. I think, yes, when it comes to the face of the watch, when it comes to the dial, without copying it one-to-one, like you put it so nicely, simply fries, Daniel Roth did a good job in translating the ethos of that design to his own brand. But of course, the case itself is so distinctive, as you can see between these two chronographs here, that it doesn't look like any other watch.
Yeah. That skeleton dial, though, man, with those fire blued hands.
Actually, they had an even, I think I was looking at it right before you came. They have an example in white gold with the bracelet.
Oh, man.
It looks like a monstrous piece. I mean, it's so beautiful.
You have to wear sunglasses just to have that on your wrist. That is bling, but it's a beautiful bling.
Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible.
I think that's a cool watch.
And $26,000. I mean, that's about what like a Skelton Cartier new runs. That's
Yeah, I think, it is the kind of watch in this auction, I have to say. It's not always the best price, but when it comes to this, with the recent upticks in terms of the Daniel Roth pricing on the secondary markets, white gold on the bracelet, already a pretty difficult combination to find.
yeah.
The open work dial, it's an acquired taste, but here with a column wheel chronograph, you have an excuse for it, right? Every time you engage the chronograph, you'll see the action right there.
Yeah.
So even for people like me who are not necessarily partial towards a skeletonized dial, that adds some justification to it. And like you said, I think those heat blued hands really pops right out of that face, and make it somewhat legible, at least, with an execution that's notoriously hard to read otherwise.
Well, you got to think about production numbers, and I would bet the production numbers on this watch are very small.
Probably, I would have to do some digging to know exactly how many, but I would say probably not more than a few hundreds. And in this configuration, it might be less than a couple of dozens when you put it all together.
And so, I mean, I hate to buy watches as an investment, but thinking of it as an investment, you have a brand that's gaining traction, you have a precious metal piece, and you have a distinctly modern piece that is most likely low production at the mid-20s. I don't see that as out of line at all.
Yeah. And also, again, like, that it's a very distinct style with, especially on the bracelet, it just looks so original and so fresh. Whereas, again, the two of us, we both like the case shape, clearly. But for some
Right.
people on a leather band, that case shape might look dated, too out there, too different, whatever. But here on the bracelet, it looks like a different creature, especially
Right.
with that open work dial.
Yeah.
Mr. French Fries Monster, again, I was mostly joking. I like having fun once every so often. I'm already too rigid for the most people, so I try to have fun. But I'm glad you're okay with it. Belgian fries are great. And Chili Badger is also a resounding vote on behalf of Belgian fries. They're amazing, proper mayonnaise, not that Heinz McDonald's white sludge. Oh my God. They are hating our American way of life. Butcher, what are we going to do with these Europeans?
I can't believe it.
Um,
So what is it that makes Belgian mayonnaise Belgian?
Well, with mayonnaise, I don't exactly know. I have to be fair, but I do know that Belgians invented fried potatoes,
Okay.
and I like to say, I know that they much prefer mayonnaise as a condiment for their fries.
Yes.
Whether they invented mayonnaise or not, that's where my little historical interlude ends. So they can educate me before, if they can chime in before I close. But I remember, speaking of Belgian fries, when I was in New Haven, when I lived in New Haven for almost a year, I was frequenting this classic bar they had there called Rudy's. That was actually run by a Belgian entrepreneur, and they had incredible fries and all manner of dipping condiments, all of which were mayonnaise based. And at that time, I was only a vegetarian, so I could, um, you know, enjoy the whole experience. So
Right.
I kind of miss that place. Lots of good beer too. Although
Oh.
I used to go there a lot of times with a German friend of mine, and he was getting angry at me, for even daring to like some of the Belgian offerings there. He was a Bavarian and very proud, so for him, anything was a step down, unless it comes from a traditional German brewery. But anyway, so Rudy's, I think they should still exist. It's a very old school kind of college bar, but kind of reimagined as a Belgian brasserie / sports bar. All right, Mr. French Fry enters with this late comment. Belgians double fry their fries, cool down, then fry it again, extra crispy. Yes, that's the way I like it. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I have like the late night munchies.
Me too. I mean, I have munchies, I think 24/7. It's I have a very strange appetite, honestly, so I have to keep it in check quite often. But let's leave it on that note and try to keep the munchies at bay as well. I really appreciate it, Jeremy. Thank you for keeping me company, and thank you for your conversation tonight. It was great to have a show with you. Ali came in too, and I appreciate you both for being members and supporters of this channel as well. Jake Brooks and Jeremy were really generous with their super chats, and so was Corrado Galizia as well. I really appreciate you guys. I will see you all tomorrow, actually, 1 p.m. my time, so in less than 13 hours. I'm doing a special show which will hopefully become a Sunday special, a regular show from Steel Buffalo Motors, which is a bike shop, a mechanic shop, and like a modern day shrine to Steve McQueen and other kings of cool from Hollywood. We'll be smoking cigars and talking about everything and nothing. I have just gotten mics, so Ben, the owner of the store, and I will be mic'd up. So hopefully it will work well.
That's
Tomorrow,
awesome. I'm really looking forward to that.
thank you, man. I hope again, I hope it will be something nice, something different. And again, you know, if you're interested in bikes and cigars, it's a nice environment to talk about these. I don't think we'll be drinking, but hey, if that show is successful and if we can have this Sunday thing going, maybe I can convince at some point the proprietor of our cigar lounge to do something around cigars and whiskeys mainly as well, and with different guests. But I'm sure you will all love Ben, so you will ask for him back for the most part. So that will be great. I'm really looking forward to it. Again, thank you so much, Jeremy. Thank you, everyone in the chat. Ali, thank you for your support. Wear your watches and enjoy them. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care, guys. Please don't forget to hit the like button. Bye.